The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Show of hands. Who here is frustrated with technology?
Which technology? The phone, the computer?
All of it.
Yes.
Who here wants to save money and who here cares about the environment? We're going to talk about all of it, how it all fits together tonight. So, I'm Marc-Anthony Arena, and this is the IT industry in a nutshell. Hallandale Beach, Florida, 1992. My family went down to visit my grandma's aunt, and she would make us lunch and buy us Oreos and buy us toys, and we always had a blast when we went to lunch at her house. And one day, her cousins walked in and joined us for lunch, and they declared that they were going to buy a new TV. And my dad said, "Hold on a minute," and he volunteered me. And we went over to their high-rise condo. We went in the elevator, and we went up to their floor, and we walked into their living room, and I said, "Let me see the remote." And I opened it up, and I licked the batteries and rolled them around, and I said, "Let me see some new batteries." And I put new batteries in there, and I turned on their TV, and they were astounded. And that was my first experience of many that led me to realize that the vast majority of the expenditures in my industry are unnecessary. Most of what you see in the industry is myth, rumor, legend, hearsay, and misinformation. And unfortunately, the guys we trust in the industry are part of that because they have no idea what they're doing either. So in my books, I say, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed men are kings. The dudes who can type fast, people just figure, oh yeah, they must know about computers. They must know how to do computers. But it's so vast, and it complexifies itself exponentially with every day. And so I still had no idea what to do with my life.
How old were you then?
I was around 10, and up until after college, still had no idea what to do with my life. And around 2009, I was around 25 or so, and I was at my dad's cousin sister's best friend's house on Canandaigua Lake. And I just happened to bring my girlfriend at the time. She just happened to accompany me. And when I went to clean this lady's computer, and normally I would leave my girlfriend at Starbucks or what have you, and she just happened to accompany me that day. And she said, "Hey Mark, you're good at explaining this technology stuff in plain English. Why don't you do this for a living?" And at first I balked, and I said, "I don't want to do this for a living." And she said, "While you're broke, you might as well." And that was the moment that gave me direction in life, finally, at 25. That was really the first moment that I said, "Oh yeah, you know what, all right, fine." And the light bulb went off, and I printed out business cards the very next day, and I started to hand them out. And I always felt bad for my friends and relatives and never charged them because this stuff was easy for me. And they said, "Mark, it may be easy for you, but it's valuable to us." And so I went from a really broke guy to a slightly less broke guy who did this for a living. And I've been here ever since. I've been doing that ever since. Fairport, New York, 2025. About a year ago, my brother's girlfriend was working on her laptop and told my brother, "You know what? My laptop's dying. I'm going to buy a new one. And look at how dim it is." So he reached over and pressed the brightness button, and the screen lit up again, and she said, "Oh, wow." Again, it's all misinformation, right? People think they need a new one when it has nothing to do with that. I had a guy last week, he called me up, and He was infected with OneDrive and he had iCloud in there, and they were two cloud stealing services or cloud sucking services, and they were competing against each other to see how much of his photos they could steal, and they were copying from each other, and it was compounding, right? And he said, well, I don't care, I'll just buy a new computer. I said, it has nothing to do with the hardware at all, right? So this industry, because it's so complex, is rewarding itself with more purchases for no reason when it wasn't the actual problem. And later on we can talk about so many things, but this machine is a 2015 machine. My main machines at home are 2012 machines. There is absolutely no reason to buy anything new. I had a 40-year-old car and I just lost my 20-year-old car, but there's no reason. The older stuff is actually better and it's easier to repair. So any dude at any store telling you that you need to throw away your 3-year-old computer because shame on you, it's old and outdated, either has no clue what he's doing or is trying to sell you something. And the reason there is, I mean, aside from the fact that older stuff is made with more care and is more repairable and all that, but essentially computers have not gotten faster since 2012. If you remember in the 90s, speeds were doubling every year. They called it Moore's Law. I think it was Gordon Moore who came up with that theory that, hey, speeds are doubling every year, so it'll keep going. And in 2012, that plateaued. So that's why my 2012 computers are perfectly fine. Last week, I did 2 jobs in one day for these people in this town, and in both cases, these people had 2013 machines. And they had failed, and I said, you know what, we're just going to put a new hard drive. In both cases, I said, I'll just put a new hard drive in here because your machine specs are actually the same as the specs that you can get in the store right now. No reason to get another one. So a couple things, and as I was saying before, I discovered a lot of things. I had a hunch that people were being ripped off by big box stores, but as I got into it over the next few years of starting to do this for a living, I realized just how deep it went. All my clients would call me up. I'm referral only, word of mouth only, and that helps avoid the tire kickers, and I'm in their homes, and it's just a personal relationship, and it's not something I can just put a billboard and they'll just see my name and number and think I'm just another guy, right? This is a real personal relationship that's really on the level of a doctor-patient relationship. I'm in their home for hours at a time, working with their passwords. They trust me with backing up their data and so on. All my clients would call me up, hey Mark, I'm doctor, lawyer, retired, successful person, so-and-so, and I feel stupid. And I feel intimidated, and my computer guy called me stupid. Huh, that's interesting. Most of y'all are millionaires and doctors and whatever. What's going on here? So that cognitive dissonance occurred in my head, and I said, something's going on here. And I always remind people now, hey, look, you're not stupid. You're an intelligent, successful retiree who's been thrust into an industry that continually, exponentially complexifies itself for fun and profit. You can't be expected to keep up when the goalposts are moving so fast that the computer guys themselves are out of date. Most of them don't even bother to keep up with their training, and most of them think that viruses still occur. We'll get into that. So there are 2 types of people in the world. Those with morals, ethics, logic, and common sense, like all of you, and then people in the IT industry over here who lack that. The vast majority of the PCs that have been discarded in the landfill are there unnecessarily. They were discarded unnecessarily through things like the Windows 11 cache grab scandal. Right? So in October, we all got scary emails from Microsoft and scary news bulletins that said, warning, you're going to get viruses unless you put your computer in the garbage. They're holding humanity hostage because they felt like making more money. So they said, you know what? If you don't put your computer in the garbage and buy a new one, you'll be vulnerable to viruses. And that was a beautiful way they knew that they weren't making any more money because computers weren't getting any faster, so they had to artificially boost that industry. And again, a lot of them thought they were helping you, and they thought that viruses still happen. In reality, viruses stopped in 2013, and I'm going to say this throughout this talk. If you learn nothing else from today, aside from the fact that, wow, this guy's really handsome. Now, if you learn nothing else, it's viruses stopped in 2013. If nothing else, that's the most important thing I'll say. I have not seen a traditional virus since 2013. unless we dig a computer out of a basement or whatever, and hey, it's been there for a while. The funny thing with the Windows 11 cash grab scandal is, and I in my forthcoming book, I call this the treadmill scandal as well, right? We got to keep people buying things, right? So here's the classic example. Someone calls me up, my bank website says my browser's out of date. Okay, so I update your browser, right? Your Firefox or Chrome or heaven forbid Edge. And then the website's happy for a little while. And every 2 weeks, websites now make themselves worse and more bloated in order to make you download another update for the browser. And eventually the browser says, I can't use this because I need a new version of Mac OS or of Windows or whatever. So then you got to do that. And eventually you get to a point where the computer says, well, you know what? You're not allowed to use this computer anymore because too bad for you. So you can't use this OS on this computer, so you have to put the computer in the garbage and buy another one. It's a treadmill. Matter of fact, so my mom got a newer computer lately, and it said, sorry, too bad, you're not allowed to use that printer because it's too old. We don't support it. The magic word is support. It's out of support. Because they feel like they need to hold all the grocery bags. They need to be responsible for us all the time. So, here's the funny thing. In the past, Microsoft would urge you to update, right? You got to update, right? With the Get Windows 10 scandal a few years ago, they force attacked Windows 10 into machines that already had Windows 7 or 8. They desperately force attacked in there because turns out Windows 10 includes a lot of telemetry, a lot of measurements, a lot of legalized spyware. So that's why they were so desperate for this. But this time around, instead of urging and forcing with Windows 11, they said, you know what? How about we say that only computers that are, let's say, from 2020 and newer are eligible. The rest of you, put them in the garbage. So they came up with fake arbitrary requirements to make you think that your computer was not good enough, okay? Here's the reality there with that specific scandal. Again, viruses don't happen, you're not gonna get viruses. The other thing is that Windows 11 is worse in every possible way. It's so confusing, nobody on this planet, including me, can figure out how to use it. It's worse in every possible way. Includes more ways in which they can spy on you and sell to you and beg desperately with pop-ups that you need to sign up for our Microsoft services. Because who do you think you are? This isn't your machine, this is our advertising machine, and you're just a pair of eyeballs. So, a couple things. You don't need to do anything for another 5 years, okay? Those web browsers, remember the treadmill, those web browsers are going to be fine for another 5 years. Maybe around 5 years from now, the web browsers will start crying and saying, hey, look, we don't want Windows, we're not going to let you use this on Windows 10 anymore. Okay, fine. Then you deal with it. At that point, I can force Windows 11 into almost any computer from the past 15 years because it turns out those rules are utterly fake and arbitrary. There's a tool called Rufus that techies can use, and luckily a few of us are starting to discover this. That particular tool allows us to shove Windows 11 into almost any machine. I put it on a 2012 machine and it's fine. So those rules again are fake. Finally, what I do for most people is I liberate them entirely from the whole Microsoft circus, the whole Microsoft hamster wheel, the treadmill, whatever, with a completely different product, and we'll get to that at the end, so don't let me forget about that. Because it's all unnecessary, it's all fake. The vast majority of expenditures and waste is unnecessary. The vast majority of headaches are unnecessary. If people had any idea what was being done to them, they would get torches and pitchforks. And that little piece is the intro to my podcast. So everything I explain will be in plain English using analogies, and I started out college in the IT department because that was my passion, even though I didn't realize I could make a living at it. And my first year in college, I dyed my hair blonde and partied and failed out of everything and ended up getting a business degree instead. But that actually helped me because now I have the perspective of business ethics. So now I look at this industry from that perspective. So everything I say tonight will be from a business ethics perspective, so it's not technical. So yeah, don't worry. Okay. So from 2009 until today, I've been doing this 12 hours a day for people. I go to individuals' homes, and back where I'm from in Western New York, And I saw so many people wasting so much money. And usually they called me the day after some dude from a big box store destroyed their machine. It's not, hey, let me call someone and it doesn't matter who I call. It's, okay, this guy ruined everything. Now I have to call Mark to clean up the destruction. So for a while there, I was 2 months behind and I was so overwhelmed. And I said, look, if I was a chef, I would tell you, go eat somewhere else. My restaurant's busy. But with this, it was, hey, if I turned you down, you'd have your stuff wiped out. So many people said, oh, I went to the office supply store and they thought I had a virus, so they got scared, so they erased all my precious data and said it was dangerous. Have you?
My husband allowed that. I would not let them touch mine.
Brutal. And that's the first, apparently that's their first step in their training manual is wipe out clients' precious data. Ask questions later. Really? And again, they thought that viruses still existed, so they thought that they had to wipe it out as if it was needed to be quarantined or something. It's all fake. And again, most of them think they're helping. I have seen so much wrong, so much, I don't want to say injustice, but just so much incorrect solutions or just malarkey. I've seen so much of it. So around 2013, I realized that, hey, I don't want to just be a guy in a backwater town helping 3 people a day. I need to do something else. For the first couple of years, I was happy just making money helping a few people, and I'd come home and eat some dinner and I'd be satisfied. But I realized something needed to be done. These are worldwide problems and no one was talking about it. There are a handful of guys I follow online and guys I interface with locally and guys I went to college with who do know what's going on. They do know what's up. And there are other guys out there who do know what's up, but again, they just think, well, Microsoft is too big and there's nothing I can do. So I knew something had to be done. So I started writing my first book, which I published in 2017. Of course, I forgot to order a case of books for tonight, but you can order it online wherever books are sold, any bookstore in the world. And then I did my podcast, so if for some reason you like me, you can check out my podcast, The Computer Exorcist. And I started the speaking tour. I started about a year ago, and this is one of the first places I spoke at. And I'm having a ball. I love meeting people and speaking to you, and I love this. So, who here plays Jenga? Remember the game? Yeah. When I was little and my grandma would come over to babysit us and my parents would go out or something, we would play Jenga. And as you build that tower taller and taller, what happens? Less stable. Yeah, that's my industry. The other way I put it in my first book, I have this illustration. I had this my illustrator do this. My industry is like a castle, and computer guys are out front guarding you. And, well, you have to have complicated passwords, and you have to have scanners. And meanwhile, the bad guys are walking in the back door with impunity. That's what's going on in my industry. All the fear, all the tension, all the vigilance. And then the bad guys just walk right through. Because the good guys haven't updated their training. They don't understand the fundamental concepts in most cases. So again, what your computer guy doesn't know is that viruses simply do not happen. It's not that someone banged a gavel and said, we're done with viruses, let's make them legal or whatever. It's that bad guys realize that there are a lot of ways they can get away with treachery without using the word virus. So why are we going to go through the front door with all those scanners when we can just go right here? There are 4 new threats. There are 4 new ways bad guys get to you. I'm not saying that threats don't happen anymore. I'm saying there are 4 new ways. So let's talk about them. And don't let me get too much of a tangent here. What do we have, an hour total? All right. Yeah. All right. Then someone keep yelling at me here to speed up. The first one is legalized malware. Again, it's not like someone said, we're going to declare this stuff legal. It's that the bad guys realized, as long as they don't go too far, as long as they don't cross too many lines, as long as they don't take their social security number, they can take your browsing behavior. As long as they don't do certain things, as long as they don't call it a virus, we can call it other things. We can call it So first of all, malware is anything malicious. Malicious software, malware. That's it. Okay? It's anything malicious. So you can be malicious and still be within legal guidelines, right? There are many forms of legalized malware. Number one, fake protection, right? There are plenty of programs that claim to clean or protect or whatever. The first thing that I remove when I go to a client's house, the first thing I remove is the antivirus software. I don't care what brand it is, right? Oh yeah.
You can get rid of McAfee. How can you do that?
So you go to PC settings and then, right? Thank you. And it's one thing if it was a trade-off. It's one thing if viruses still existed and they were helping you, but they cannot protect you from any threats after 2013. Because around that time is when the bad guys started doing other things. So the Norton, the McAfee, the WebRoot, I don't care what brand it is. I don't need to accuse any of them individually because they're all useless. They are an excellent, excellent way to slow your computer down by 90% or more. They are an excellent way to take $75 and flush it. They are an excellent way to make you pull your hair out. And they're an excellent way to not protect you against any of the modern threats we'll discuss tonight. So when I teach apprentices and I talk about this and whatever, the very first thing, just go out there and I tell people, hey, you want a job? All right, you can go around the world just removing antivirus products for people and you can make a living doing that. So it depends on the particular machine, but usually it's PC settings and then installed apps. You can go through that list of installed apps and McAfee might have a couple entries in there. When you rip it out, they will fight you. A lot of them, well, what are you doing? You need me. Why? Shame on you. What's your problem? And you just say, leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. Nobody cares. Recently I did one. This past week, Norton got even nastier. And they said, well, we're going to have an AI agent. So when it said, please tell me the reason why you're removing. So I get snarky and I say it ruined my computer and blah, blah, blah. So the AI agent popped up and said, well, you know what? How about we help you? And I had to say, leave me alone, leave me alone. So you can tell they show their true colors at that point. So that's a beautiful way. It's a beautiful way to destroy a computer prematurely, turn it into molasses, and make the general public think that computers die every 3-4 years. Think that they need to buy a new one every couple of years. Once you rip out that antivirus product, the machine remains stable and it's no less safe and remains stable for 10-15 years. Really?
What they call the spyware.
Yeah, all of it is legal, so all of it is going to pass through any kind of scanners. It's all utterly pointless. Yeah. So there's another form of legalized malware called fake cleaners. And you'll see Driver Guide and Driver Updater and PC Optimizer Pro. And I was at a family reunion 10 years ago and my relatives said, we just spent $3,000 on a new iMac and it's horribly slow. And I said, do you have MacKeeper? And they said, wow, how'd you know? And MacKeeper is the worst product ever created by human hands. It destroys a Mac completely as soon as you install it. And then, oh, you need protection. And they do a fake smoke and mirrors and bar graphs and pie charts. And then, oh, you need to pay us $29.99 a month. Rips the computer to shreds legally. Because they didn't say virus, they said optimizer. Another one is toolbars, okay? So if the bad guy doesn't get all the way into the PC, if it just sits on the front porch, if it just gets into your web browser, then they get away with it. So if you fire up your web browser and it goes to Maps Galaxy or My Web Search or Secure Search, or Ask, years ago it was the Bing bar and the Ask bar, those were the villains, right? Those are completely legal. They hijack everything you search for online and they can harvest and sell your behavior. But they didn't use the word virus, so they got away with it. Finally, there's another thing called notification attacks, actually, where you'll see something stab the side of your screen. You need diet pills and recipes and abc123.xyz, and you need diet pills and McAfee, car insurance, and Obama mortgage rates and whatever, and they keep saying random words. And that's a notification attack. Again, that's built into the browser. It's fully legal. If you bring it to a computer store, they'll do a 1991 virus scan and they'll shrug their shoulders because they don't understand. You go to the web browser, you go to notifications, and you just flush them out. It's fully legal. Finally, printer spyware. I worked for a large organization in 2011 for a short while, and while I was ramping up my business. And one day, all my clients called me and they all said, "Hey Mark, my computer's horribly slow." And I said, "Okay, what'd you do?" Right? I used to blame them. "Well, nothing, but your colleague came over and installed my HP printer." "Oh, okay." Next call. "Hey Mark, my computer's horribly slow." "All right, what happened?" "Nothing, but your colleague came over and installed my HP printer." I got that call 30 times that day. That's interesting. Much as I hated that job, I learned a lot. I learned a lot that my industry is not on the up and up. So in the case of HP, they insert around 7 pieces of hideous spyware to slow your computer down dramatically. And even after that HP printer dies after a week, that spyware remains until you rip it out. So that's another thing in my list of villains that I rip out. Everyone get that so far?
I just got rid of an HP printer.
Yeah, it probably died after a month or a week.
Oh, it never worked. Well,
Yeah, a lot of them, I've seen 4 or 5 of them die during setup. In 2011, they had a meeting.
It's gone. You're telling me.
Oh no, they're still spying on everything you do, pretty much. Absolutely. And I'll get into this if I get time, but I had an HP DeskJet in the 90s. It was phenomenal. And in 2011, they banged a gavel and said, "We're going to lose all our ethics and be the worst organization we can possibly be." And they succeeded. They used to be great. So their new printers now, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but there's something called the print head scandal. So in the 90s, my HP DeskJet, I'd pull out the cartridge and it had a print head on it, right? And that's like the tip of your pen, and sometimes it gets clogged, whatever. When I got a new cartridge, it came with a new print head, so no big deal. I could keep using it forever. But now, on most modern inkjets, but especially most HPs, not all, the print head is integrated into the printer itself. So when you buy a cartridge, you're just buying a tank of ink. You're not buying a new print head. So after a year or so, the print head clogs. 99% of all landfills are just HP printers at this point with clogged print heads. Finally, they also do something called a firmware attack, where if your wireless printer is connected to the internet, which it has to be to do wireless printing, then it receives attacks from the organization that are designed to destroy the printer or inadvertently destroy the printer. Yeah, so that's my printer story. All right, ready for number 2? Number 2 is update attacks, as I alluded to a few seconds ago with these firmware attacks. So, what happens when you get an update on your phone or your computer? And it spins and spins, and "Leave me alone, I'm busy, don't unplug me."
Screws everything up.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yep,
Yeah.
almost always.
I try not to do that.
Correct. Correct. With Windows 10 and newer, you aren't allowed to protect yourself from those attacks. Maybe because they know how destructive they are.
So you think there's nothing you can do about it?
We'll get to that. Yeah, there's in some cases there is, in a lot of cases. So
So is Apple different?
they used to be. They used to be.
How do you do their updates?
So here we go. When you get an update, just to finish the part about what it does, right? It's always slower, right? It scrambles all your stuff like scrambled eggs. A lot of times they'll declare that you're not allowed to go any farther until you buy a new one, right? And so on and so forth. It's all part of this treadmill scandal. It's also a violation of your ownership, in my ethical opinion. And it's annoying as all get out, right? Every 3 seconds there's another update because these guys at these companies have to justify their own paycheck. So they perpetuate the chaos, right? And it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole, right? All of a sudden, oh yeah, we're gonna fix this, but then we're gonna break 10 more things, right? So I always say, you remember the Donald Duck cartoon where he's in the rowboat and he springs a leak, right? So he steps on the leak, and then 2 more leaks spring, and then he steps on those, and then he springs 3 more leaks, and so on. And that's how I explain update attacks to people, right? Updates they mean well, technically. They claim that they're out to protect you against something. They claim that, you'll see this on the news, right? iPhone users are encouraged to do the latest update. Otherwise, a guy in Siberia wearing a green hoodie on a high tide and a new moon on a Wednesday at 2:30 while doing the hokey pokey might be able to get into your computer. Right? It's the fear of the astronomically unlikely event that spurs people to accept these update attacks. And again, that wasn't enough, so now these update attacks are now forced in a lot of cases with Windows 10 and newer and a lot of the Mac OS and newer. So here's what you do. If you have an Apple device, either the portable things or the computers now, you go to System Preferences or Settings, whatever we're calling it this week, and then General, and then Software Update, and you flip all the switches. They will still badger you desperately, but they'll stop the force attacks. Once in a while, they'll still force attack. And on an Apple laptop or desktop, I type something in to completely disconnect it from Apple. But anyway, the easy answer is you go to your settings, general, update, and you turn off all the switches. And then your machine will become stable and won't slow down anymore and won't change itself anymore, and it will become yours. That's how, aside from ripping out the antivirus product, once you do that and turn off the updates, that's how a computer remains stable for 10 to 15 years. We can't have that, huh? If you're infected with Windows 10 or newer, my secret sauce is a product called Stop Updates 10. You install it, and then you can either turn off the whole engine, or the better way is to just click on the pause button, and it protects you. It pauses the update attacks until the year 2099. And at that point, hopefully Microsoft will be out of business. So that's that story. With smartphones, I mean, with the Apple we talked about, with non-Apple phones, it depends. With Android phones, you have to go to secret developer mode, and then you can turn off updates. It's not terribly difficult. Point is, it's possible. So again, updates can't really do anything for you. They don't protect against anything, but they are one of the new threats that is destroying our products. That make sense?
If you've already been going along with updates.
Then once you put a stop to it, the machine will stop slowing down, right? Your computer's probably been slowing down ever since you bought it. So once you turn off the updates, it'll stop worsening. Yeah, I mean, every 5-10 years or something, you might have to, fine. But this every 12 seconds malarkey has got to stop. And again, every time they fix one thing, they break 10 more things. And if you look online, there's an endless amount of, every time Microsoft does an update attack to Windows, it destroys it and damages it and wipes out your data, and too bad for you, no recourse, because this isn't yours and you can't sue them and so on. All right, the next new threat is commonly known as ransomware. Ransomware walks into any Windows PC like a hot knife through butter while shooting fish in a barrel while taking candy from a baby. It scrambles all your documents and photos, everything you care about, and then it begs you for ransom money. I used to see these in residential settings, but more often than not nowadays, I just see them in organizational settings. And these guys don't, it's not like I mean, sure, they want to target large organizations, sure, but there's no reason why they wouldn't want to target consumers as well. Here's what actually happens. The reason why I'm seeing them less with residential and more with organizational is because of how they get in. If you're infected with Internet Explorer or Outlook, then it's just a magnet for ransomware. It's just a welcome sign. It's a kick me sign.
I'm sorry, say that again?
If you
I was busy shutting off the notification.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. So if you are an organization, for some reason, large organizations think that Internet Explorer and Outlook are acceptable products. But in reality, those two products are magnets for ransomware and anything else, really.
But I like Outlook.
So if you're a consumer, there is something that's similar to Outlook. It's called Thunderbird. It looks the same, but since it's non-Microsoft, it's invincible. It's not like any of these companies do anything special. It's by virtue of being non-Microsoft, they're safe. You and I could start a company tomorrow and we can write software and it'll be safe because it's non-Microsoft. So that's that. So 76% of organizations end up paying the ransom. Hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars or more. Which implies that the people who are supposed to protect them, the people who are making $100,000 a year, those IT guys who are so nervous and so overprotective and everything else, and they want you to dutifully do all your updates and who are so vigilant, they aren't protecting their organizations because they aren't aware of something called common sense. Remember in the beginning. So all you do is this, and of local interest, if you remember the Massachusetts Steamship Authority. A few years ago, I was driving around downtown here like 10 years ago, and I happened to be listening to the radio, and they said Steamship Authority was hit with one of these ransomwares. And I hear it all the time, right? Municipalities, hospitals, big businesses, they get hit with them, and I feel sad about this because their IT guys don't understand how to protect them. But it's actually very simple. So their director got on and he said, we didn't have to pay the ransom because my people protected me. So I was very happy for them. So whoever you got over at your Steamship Authority is great. It's actually very, 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 very simple to prevent ransomware. And this is something I recommend doing anyways. It's called real proper backup. You get a thumb drive or a larger backup drive, right, the size of a deck of cards. Avoid Western Digital forever and ever, amen, because they put filthy software that implants itself in your computer and so on, does automatic fake backups. So avoid Western Digital, avoid SanDisk. Any other brand is fine. You buy an external thing, you plug it into your computer, you copy the important things to that backup drive, you don't move them. A lot of scummy computer guys, oh, we're just going to move stuff out of your computer because maybe that's what's slowing you down. Because they don't understand what's actually slowing you down, right? If you moved your stuff onto the backup drive, that backup drive can die. All of this stuff is garbage and dies whenever it wants. So get an external backup drive, duplicate your stuff onto it. So if the computer or the external dies, no big deal. And then put it in a fire safe. 76% of IT professionals and organizations apparently don't understand this concept. But y'all do because you have common sense. I do a proper backup. I duplicate all my stuff onto a hard drive. I put one in my parents' house. I put one in my office. I got a backup everywhere. So if my computer dies, no big deal. Does that make sense? It's that easy. It's that easy. Okay. SanDisk is the same. SanDisk and Western Digital, they actually realized they were both scummy, so they merged. They both do the same thing where SanDisk was caught back in 2008, I think it was, implanting the U3 malware legally into people's machines. The moment you plugged it into a Windows machine, it implanted their filthy software into the machine without asking you. Just filthy, filthy. And again, they claim that they're going to do all these automatic backups, which don't. And they lock their drives, so if they make you do a password and then you forget it immediately and then your stuff is locked out forever. I had a guy who called me like 15 years ago, oh, I put all my kids' photos on this drive. Now I can't get into it because there's a password. Really? So yeah, I moved everything onto it. So it's exclusively in there and he forgot his password. Yeah. All right, ready for the fourth one? And then I got a couple bonus ones. Support scams. This is very important. Please tell your friends. This is the most important thing ever. So there are 4 ways a support scammer can contact you. Number one, they can call you out of the blue because they're calling every number in America one by one. And hi, I'm Microsoft. Hi, I'm Amazon. Hi, I'm Apple. I'm the IRS. I'm the PayPal. A lot of times I'm PayPal. Or you go on the Googles and type in, I need Outlook tech support. I need AOL tech support. I need whatever. And then they put their fake phone numbers there. Or you'll get a fake invoice from them that says, we are Norton, we are Geek Squad, whatever. We have a renewal of $600. And then conveniently, if you need to dispute, here's our number. How convenient, right? And finally, the more common way is you'll get a giant pop-up, right? Warning, and you'll get sirens. Warning, you have viruses. Call Microsoft now. We care about you. What happens if you get on the phone with them? You get on the phone, they claim they're Microsoft, they claim they're whatever, and then they claim there's some kind of transaction that happened, right? I'm Amazon, and you just bought a pink iPad for $1,000, right? Let's get them scared. Oh, you want a dispute? Sure. Or, hey, I'm Microsoft, and you have viruses, and I need to look at your computer. Okay, great. They aren't really Microsoft. They aren't really Apple. They aren't really Amazon. They're people who have nothing to do. Big tech hates people, and they will never talk to you on the phone. Incoming or outgoing calls, they hate people. Okay? Here's what happens. If you let them, they want to get into your computer. Who here likes art house independent movies? Good. All of my intelligent people in these libraries. There was a Swedish vampire movie from 2008 called Let the Right One In. Anyone see that one? The Swedish legend of the vampire is that they can't break into your house and attack you unless you invite them in. I saw that film in an indie theater back when it came out. I'm not a scary movie guy at all, but it's a great analogy, huh? These bad guys can never, ever, 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 ever get into your computer ever unless you let them. No one can ever get into your computer ever unless you let them. It just doesn't happen. Right? It's theoretically possible if you put your computer in a laboratory setting with two hands tied behind its back that maybe one person who spends 10 years could possibly get into it. But no one's going to get into your computer ever unless they convince you, I'm Microsoft, you need to download this remote support tool called UltraViewer or TeamViewer or Log Me In or whatever, and then I'll get into your computer and I'll help you. That tool that you download is completely legal. It's the same tool that all legitimate, normal computer guys use to assist our clients and our aunts and uncles and whatever. Let the right one in. Does that make sense? So inevitably, I get a call. Oh, Mark, I just got a guy and he said he was Microsoft and he got into my computer and he took all my bank accounts and I went to the bank and they told me to go to a big box store and get a virus scan. Think they're going to find anything? It's a beautiful way to flush $300, right? Who was that? Was it a Rockefeller who used to light his cigar with $100 bills? Might as well do that. It's more fun. I just thought of that. Might as well. It's such a crying shame that bankers out there, they don't know anything about computers, and they send you to a big box store who knows even less. Has nothing to do with technology. It's all ethics. These bad guys use legal tools to convince you to let them into the machine, and then they take all your money and destroy your machine, and they lock your machine, and they do whatever they want. So virus scans ain't going to stop them. What will? I'll give you a clue. It's not the government, and it's not even me. Thank you. And what were you going to say?
No, I was just wondering, without any of the antivirus, what about your malware protection?
All of it stopped in 2013. So here's what you do to protect yourself against modern threats that happen after 2013. Look on the shelf, and I don't know if we have a Bible around here. You get a Bible and you put your hand on it and you say, Mark, I promise not to talk to bad guys on the phone. That's it. That's it. And don't download those giant green download banners that say, download now, you need manuals, you need recipes, you need whatever, and then it attacks with driver guide or PC optimizer or whatever. That's it. All you need is your good wisdom, which you have, and most people don't, or what, That's it. The only thing that's going to stop this worldwide phenomenon is you warning your friends. That's why I'm here today. Does that make sense? Okay, bonus threats. But wait, there's more. I use that phrase a lot in my next book. The fake Wi-Fi scandal. So you remember the Dennis the Menace comic book? When he crimps the hose, he kinks the hose, and Mr. Wilson's trying to take a drink. Is that the water authority's fault? Whose fault is it? It's Dennis. That's it. Right? Nothing technical here. That's what's happening with the fake Wi-Fi scandal. So you have all these broadband companies, right? These high-speed internet companies coming to your house. We have Spectrum and Verizon and yada yada, and they're all doing it, so I don't have to accuse any of them individually. That's the cool part about industrial scandals, huh? They all bring you a powerful internet connection to your house. And then, like Dennis the Menace, they crimp it by way of a fake router. And of course, I left my routers and modems in the car outside, but usually I brandish the routers and modems. Here's a quick thing, right? So you have a modem, which brings your internet connection from the provider into the house, right? It connects you to the world. That's a modem. The router governs traffic inside of the house. Does that make sense? So that's it. A lot of times, and when I wrote my first book, it was fashionable to give people a combo box. It was a router and a modem, and it was awful, right? And luckily they've stopped that. They're now doing separate routers and modems, which is ideal. But the router that they're giving out, I've coined the term fake Wi-Fi router to describe this. The router that they're renting to people is utter garbage. It only works about 6 feet or 2 meters away. After that, you're on your own. So I get tons and tons and tons of calls from people. Hey, Mark, my internet's really slow. I got glitchy Zooms, and I'll never forget this one guy, Jeff. He was one of my favorite clients, and he said, Mark, my Netflix keeps crashing. So, well, all right, what happened? I called my cable company, and they said, you need more internets. So now I'm at the extreme $80 Turbo Ultimate plan, and it's no better. Really? Went over to his house. He had his Wi-Fi router was in the den. 25 feet away was his living room. No walls. He had an open concept kitchen. No walls at all. And his Netflix wasn't working. I said, oh, interesting. He had a fake router, right? And again, I've coined that term to describe this, and I'm trying to spread it. So when I call these companies and complain, I tell them it's a fake router. So I'm hoping that they catch on. Once I ripped it out, I put in a real router, which just means any router you buy at the store and plug in yourself. I have certain brands that are better than others. And he was perfectly fine. Everything worked immediately. So then I called and I canceled all the Turbo Ultimate internets, and I got him down to a secret senior citizens internet for $15. And it was still perfect. Because the speed and the level of service was not the problem. It was Dennis the Menace.
What's a secret senior citizen thing?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. So it depends on your internet provider, depends on who you have in your area, right? I know that back at home I have Spectrum, and for a while there it was $14, now it's $19. Okay, that's fine, better than $80. And I know Comcast was doing this thing for a while where it was like $19 or something, right? When you call, you can't ask for it because that would make too much sense, right? It's a secret menu. So you call and you threaten to cancel. And then you say, look, hey, you know what? I've seen other things. I've seen T-Mobile advertise, I've seen blah, blah, blah. I've seen cheaper prices. Or, hey, I'm just going to quit because your price is too high. You call the secret retention department. And only when you threaten to quit will they finally talk to you and say, okay, fine. Hey, Well, we've got the secret plan. So, I mean, I know what I need, but even when I call with my clients sitting next to me, when I call on their behalf, I can't ask for it. I have to say, hey, we're quitting, it's too expensive. And then and only then will they respond with, hey, we've got this secret plan, it's $20, but it's not really that good. I mean, you don't want it or anything. So then they try to scare you and they throw 6 curveballs at you and you keep saying, no, 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 that's fine, that's sufficient for me. Usually the speed that they are offering, all right, so speed is measured in megabits. It's a unit of measurement, okay? That's all it is. And a lot of their main plans are 500 megabit or 1,000 megabit, which is a gigabit, right? And all this stuff, 10 gigabit, whatever. No human household can ever utilize more than 25. If you enjoy spending like $250 for a router that physically cooks itself, go for Linksys. That would be the brand for you. So that's that. A couple more bonus threats. Okay, good, that works now. Let's talk about cloud-controlled gizmos. You ever go to a cocktail party at someone's house? You ever go to a cocktail party and someone's got a Sonos system? They sound good, but they are time bombs. Sonos products are like tetherballs. When you turn them on, they beg for permission from the factory to exist and to function. There are plenty of products out there now that are controlled by their factories. Sonos is just one of my many villains. They're the one I like to pick on the most. When you turn it on, it calls home to ask for permission to function. At some point, the factory says, that's out of support, that's no longer supported, and it becomes a doorstop.
What is a Sonos system?
It's a brand of cloud-controlled speaker. It's this fancy speaker system. And again, there are so many examples of products now that depend on their factory to exist. You know, the historical term serves at the pleasure of the president? It's like that. And one day they will deem you unworthy. And shame on you, the product that you purchased, the product that you thought you owned, is no longer functional. If you knowingly, willingly buy something and you know what's going on, fine. But the vast majority of people who are buying these things have no idea. So shame on anyone at Sonos who claims to be an environmentalist. Oh well, can't use it anymore, not allowed to function, right? I like antique technology and antique stuff. What if this lamp, let's pretend it's 100 years old, and let's say that factory went out of business 50 years ago. Oh, not allowed to use it anymore. That's funny. No logic, morals, ethics, or common sense. Real quick with the rental software, I touched on this before the show. We used to buy Microsoft Office one time and it was ours. It was $150 and it was ours. Right? Let's say you go down to the Packy store and you buy a hammer for $10 and they say, how about $9 a month? No, it's mine, I bought it. So that's what's happening with what I call the software rental schemes. A product that you used to buy is now rented to you eternally because why not? No one's questioning this. And the IT jokers out there who are implementing this stand to benefit from it by reaping a percentage. They are incentivized, they are given a percentage. They're incentivized to sell you down the river. So you have a couple options. If you are addicted to the Microsoft brand, then you can still have Microsoft Office, but you can have a battle against their website for the one-time purchase option. They will fight you tooth and nail, but you can eventually get it. And then you turn off the eternal subscription. Or, if you really care about saving money, if you're one of the 7 or 8 people on Wall Street who truly needs the advanced features, go right ahead. But if you're 99% of humanity who wants to open up a document from your HOA 4 times a year, then I've got a better option. There's something called LibreOffice, Libre, made by volunteers as a practical joke against Microsoft. You remember Sun Microsystems back around the turn of the century. So Sun Microsystems, around, let's say 25 years ago, said, hey, you know that Microsoft Office thing? Yeah, let's play a practical joke on Microsoft. We'll create an identical product and give it away for free. That'll be fun. So they change the name every few years. Right now it's called LibreOffice. And again, LibreOffice is absolutely free. Looks the same. It's actually simpler. It resembles one of the older versions of Microsoft Office that actually looks usable. And it's a lot safer. It's impervious to any of these threats that usually sneak in through Word documents and spreadsheets. There's one caveat with LibreOffice. I'm one of 4 people in the world who know this. So millions of people a day download LibreOffice and then they go away disappointed because LibreOffice out of the box saves your documents in a superior yet obscure format. So if you save your document, you can't give it to your friends. All right, so you flip a little switch in there so it saves things as DocX or XLSX or PBTX. Done. It's good enough for 99% of humanity. It's what most people need. There is no longer a need for Microsoft.
But if you work for a company and that's what they use,
Then too bad for you. It means that company is unaware that there are options that are safer and cheaper. Luckily, as Microsoft becomes more and more desperate and complicated and greedy, organizations are just starting to look for alternatives. Maybe at least 10 years ago, the Brazilian and French governments started adopting LibreOffice, so that's pretty cool. Let's see, there was another one recently, maybe it was Israeli. So as time goes on, especially in the past year or so, a lot of these organizations are starting to realize, hey, we can do something else that's better in every way.
yeah, I work for 501c, we have Hotmail.
Brutal. Yeah, so you enjoy having zero security. Yeah. So so it's a nonprofit, correct? Then certainly let them know about LibreOffice. And even if they really insisted on Microsoft Office, they can actually tell Microsoft, if they show the right paperwork, then they can tell Microsoft they're a nonprofit and Microsoft will actually give them the Office rental for free. So either way. So their IT jokers are what I call bearded tyrants who don't want to hear it.
I don't even think we have IT people.
It could be. Well, if you don't, then better yet, because you're saving money. But yeah, if you're a nonprofit, you can get the Office rental for free, or try LibreOffice and just flip the switches. What was the other piece of software I was going to talk about? There's so many topics, huh? Rental software, I'll think of it. Oh yeah, we got to talk about Mint. At the very end, we're going to talk about Mint. Don't let me forget that. Okay, we talked about the print head scandal, right? That's where these new printers are worse than their predecessors. They are designed deliberately to fail. A lot of products nowadays are, and that's something in my forthcoming book that I explore a lot, is this not only planned obsolescence, but forced obsolescence. And talk really quick about the smart TV scandal. Who was told by a store that they needed to throw their TV away because it wasn't a smart TV?
I don't know, because we've had so many TVs that work perfectly, and my husband decided he just absolutely had to have a new one, and he just went and got a new one, and it was like screaming, tear your hair out moment, because it's like, why?
Yeah.
When did we go from throwing everything away just because, when you have something, it's like saying to him, all right, sorry, I've decided I'm done with you, get lost, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Throwaway society.
Yeah.
And I mean, if he willingly bought that TV, that's cool. But most people are doing so because they are under the impression, because they were told that it's no longer supported, right? And that's a crying shame, right? I grew up in a world where TVs worked. You'd press the button and then it would work, and you'd clunk the old dial and it would work, right?
Get up across the room and change the channel.
Imagine that.
Got some exercise.
Yeah, that too. My great uncle invented the mute button. He actually had a junction box and wired it to the speaker inside of his television, and when a commercial came on, he'd flip his switch. And so that was cool. Here's the deal here. We were told that smart TVs enable us to watch all this internet content. I actually predicted all this back in 2006, and I was working on a product that was going to be one of the first streaming devices, and long story there. I'm writing another book about that. So anyway, what if I was a car dealer and I glued the tires to the car. So I sold you that car, and it worked great for, what, 2 years or so, and then you came back and I said, oh, your tires are bald. Oh, you should put the whole thing in the garbage and buy another one. And what if people just accepted that because they were so scared and confused that they just went along with it? That's the smart TV scandal. All right? These projectors and LCD panels and whatever are capable of displaying images. That's it. If you have an older TV, a pre-smart TV, that means they're better made and they're simpler and they're going to last longer. I personally have TVs from the 90s and I collect them. If you have old tube TVs, they are now worth a lot of money. I actually found one upstairs here and I told them this is actually worth a lot of money. Don't throw it away or don't pay to dispose of it. They're worth something to collectors. Anyway, but if you have any pre-smart TV, you don't need to throw it away and buy one. All you have to do is buy a real Roku or a real Fire Stick and plug it in. Because guess what? Those things get update attacks too. Smart TVs and Rokus and Fire Sticks get update attacks. If you have a pre-smart TV with a Roku or a Fire Stick, okay, after a year the Fire Stick becomes too slow to use. After 5 years the Roku becomes too slow to use. Okay, either way. You don't have to throw away the whole TV, do you? You just recycle that little thing and then go get another one for 40 bucks, done. But if you have a smart TV, it is the industry's dream. Because just like the tires that I glued to your car, there's an evil computer built into that TV and that receives update attacks. And when that goes bad, when that gets so many update attacks that it's too slow to use, they want you to put the whole thing in the garbage. Or discard it somehow and buy another one. It's insane. But once I explain it...
So, pardon me, but
yeah.
so in your example here, so Samsung is sending update attacks?
They're the worst villain of all time ever in every category, but especially with TVs. They send attacks. So most of the Samsung TVs in the world are too slow to use. I had a lady maybe 6 months ago or so, new client, she called me up, said, hey, my neighbor likes you and I don't know where to turn and blah, blah, blah. So I go and fix her slow computer. And then she said, Mark, my internet has a problem because my TVs are horribly slow. And I said, okay, maybe you got a fake router, or maybe it's an internet connection problem. All right, nope, not at all. Her router was like an inch away from her TV, and it was a good one. So what was going on? She had Samsung TVs all over the house, and they were receiving update attacks. So not even talking about streaming, like even lowering the volume or whatever, that's a local thing. Even lowering the volume was horribly delayed because the TVs were receiving update attacks. I had an uncle in Carlisle, and I inherited his Samsung TV, so I brought it home, and I just kept it disconnected from the internet. I actually did a reset, and then when they begged viciously to connect to the internet, I said, no thanks, leave me alone, skip, leave me alone. And now I got, hey, it's fine now, right? The picture's good, the sound's good, and it might last more than a couple years. It ain't slowing down every week. The other thing Samsung has been caught doing is recording what you say in the house and selling your conversations willy-nilly to vendors. I'm glad some of you know about this. So glad you know about this.
My Alexa talks on her own.
Yeah, there's that too. And at least you understand that the Alexa's listening to you. But the Samsung TVs, yeah. So, real quick here to finish up. We are, if you have any of this stuff, try to resell it or recycle it. If you have a smartphone, sign out of it. That sort of thing, right? Sign out of it and do a proper erase. Give it to someone who needs it. I love taking old laptops that left for dead, erasing them, rejuvenating them, giving them to the poor kids in the inner city who have nothing and they love them, right? Stuff like that. If it is truly dead, if it's an HP printer, then properly recycle it. That's all. We don't have time to talk about email, but just know that with passwords, complicated passwords are actually a scam and they are less safe. Changing your password all the time is actually less safe. It can only serve to confound and frustrate us as users. It can never protect you at all, but unfortunately most computer guys have 1991 training. So it's kind of like if you go to your doctor and the doctor says, hey, let's try some bloodletting on you. They don't have updated training. So finally, and I wish I had more time to go into this, but when a computer is deemed unworthy by Microsoft or Apple, but it's still physically fine, then there is a third thing. There's Windows, there's Apple, and then there's a third thing. It's called Mint. So everyone in the world has a 1-year-old computer that was roasted by Norton or an update or whatever that's sitting on their shelf, and they say, Mark, yeah, I got this laptop here. It's been on the shelf for a while. I can't use it anymore. It's horribly slow. It's probably broken. I say, no, it's not. So I rescue the photos off of it if they got any photos on there or whatever, erase it, and I put Mint on there. And then gives it another 10, 15 years or whatever of bulletproof, carefree enjoyment. That's what I'm doing with this right here. This is a 2015 Apple machine. Apple does not want me using it. They do not allow me to use it on the internet. I'm not allowed to do anything with it. So I purified it, ripped out all the Apple or Microsoft software, whatever the case may be. In this case, it was Apple. I ripped it out. I put Mint on it. It's a perfectly good machine. No one notices the difference. It's just as fast as any new one. And you'll
Go online and everything?
exactly. And it's modern and up to date with everything. And you can have this week's web browser, so it's perfectly modern, and you can't have any threats. And it's not only protected from all the chaos, but it's also protected from Microsoft's greed and Apple's paranoia. It's yours. Mint is based on something called Linux, but I never say that because people keel over when they hear that. It's not too difficult to use. It looks identical to Windows 7. You won't notice a difference. But the concept of Linux, and you'll see this toward the end of my book, I talk about the ethics and the history of it. It's made by volunteers who want to protect you from big tech. Any questions?
All the information that you went over today, what parts of it will you review next time? Or is there a source where we can go to get that information?
Yeah, my first book is How to Protect Yourself from Your Computer, and everything we talked about today is in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, I forgot to bring books, but you can get it at any bookstore in the world. Next time around, I'll certainly review whatever. I'm sure that was a lot. And I try to make things understandable, but I'm Italian, so I talk fast. And we had a lot to cram into an hour. Certainly let me know if you have any questions, if you want to review anything. I'll probably give a sentence about each of the concepts and then go on. I don't even know what I'm going to do next presentation. I have so much more that I'm writing about currently. And I'm so grateful to be here for a week in relative isolation so I can focus a little bit on writing.
So where in Western New York are you?
I'm from Rochester.
Okay.
There used to be companies there that used to have an economy, and there used to be a thing called the Kodak and Xerox there.
Yeah.
Now it's just people smoking and eating. That's all. That's the whole economy at this point.
Is Corning still out there?
So Corning is the only city aside from New York City that has an economy in our state. Yeah, the Corning company still exists, and somehow they're still thriving, and probably due to the fiber optic stuff. Yeah, I went like 3 years ago. I went on a date in Corning, and we walked around. And I'm like, the place isn't smoldering. No one's getting shot. It was weird. It's a nice town.
I was born in Elmira.
Oh, so right next door.
Yeah. But 2 years old, we moved to Brooklyn.
Cool, okay. Yeah, I highly recommend Letchworth. If you're gonna go through that area, avoid the 14 months of winter, but go to Letchworth. It's the Grand Canyon of the East, and it's really cool.
So just go back to so when it seems like every other time I shut my computer off, it wants to install updates.
Yeah.
I can stop it from doing that?
It's called Stop Updates 10. It's made by a guy called Gratis.
Oh, I can't do it by changing a setting on my computer.
Not allowed. Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
This isn't yours. Yeah, you are Windows 10 and newer, you are not allowed to protect yourself. Because we're protecting you. So you know the term pork barrel spending, that's another analogy I forgot to use. they might include one thing that might protect you against that astronomically unlikely threat. And then they'll put 50 more what I call anti-features to make your computer worse. And, oh, don't mind if I do. We're going to start recording what you do and what you say. About a year ago, there was something called the Copilot scandal, where Microsoft was caught red-handed taking screenshots of people's machines every minute or so. And when confronted, they said, well, what if you wanted to remember what you were doing? Except you didn't know it was happening.
Right.
Rather than fix fundamental issues, they continue to make the Jenga tower taller. And that's how I should have summed up the Jenga part of it, is rather than fix fundamental issues, they just keep adding more garbage. There is a book called Why Software Sucks. It's one of the most important books ever, and it's a big inspiration for what I do. It was written in 2007, but it's increasingly relevant. And that's in a nutshell what he says. Rather than fix reliability things, rather than make anything better, let's just add more stupidity.
Nervous when you hear all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
I actually, you know, the what they were talking about, like people can just falsify one document and take the equity in your home.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, they didn't yap about that for a while, yeah.
Well, I went zooming down to the
Registry.
registry of deeds, and I'm like, get in there, everything's fine, and then I called our lawyer and I said, so have you heard about this thing? And he's like, you're like the second person that's called me on this, and I'm going to check into it, I'll get back to you. And he called me back a few days later and he said, you know, when you see things on TV, they're trying to sell you something.
Oh yeah. Especially anyone who says dark web or
Yeah.
open Wi-Fi.
And
Right,
so
anything
he
like
said,
that.
You know, do the thing on the deed website has a thing where they'll notify you immediately if anything is happening.
That's a
So you
level-headed
go in
response.
And sign up for that, and he said, you know, I think you're good.
That's perfect level-headed response. None of this rubbing dollar bills on something to hope it gets better, right?
But
Absolutely.
that's what they do, is
Oh,
they,
yeah.
they freak you out with the
Oh yeah.
TV and things that you hear on the radio, and it's like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm gonna walk into one of these things. You know?
And just like VPN, that's another scare tactic, right? Oh, if you go to cafes and you have open Wi-Fi, if you go to hotels, then you need protection. And I talk about this in my book. That takes advantage of people who don't understand. They're hoping you don't understand that all of your stuff is already protected. Do you think your bank would let you go out there and do all your banking unprotected to let anyone eavesdrop on you? No. There's a technology called HTTPS, and they're hoping you've never heard of HTTPS. If you go to most websites, there's a little lock on the top, and oh, that means, and if you click on it, it says, this lock signifies that any communication between you and the website is unreadable by third parties.
You know what I did have happen? You were talking about earlier, I don't know what it is, but you get bombarded at one after the next, you can't get rid of it. And it was a new computer, and got it at Best Buy, and I did the Geek Squad.
Oh, yeah.
Brought them over, and they took care of it for me.
So maybe some of them might know what a notification attack is, or chances are they just did the bull in a china shop where they just wiped the browser. And
Well, yeah, they did that.
yeah, a lot of times they'll just click reset on the browser, so it just cleans the browser. But you're still vulnerable in the future if they didn't flip the switch to turn off notification attacks. Could have been anything,
Yeah.
right? And it's luck of the draw with who you're gonna get. Yeah, because I saw all the chaos in the industry, I decided to create the first and only residential IT certification. So if you know any human beings who are sick of working in a cubicle, I can certify them. Yeah, because back in 2011 when I was ramping up my business, I was trying to get people to say, well, you're gonna need some certifications. And the only certifications out there were one for servers that was totally irrelevant to a consumer, And then there was another one from the early 80s talking about floppy disks. And that's the prevailing cert right now for independent guys.
I still have some floppy disks.
So do I.
Good.
And I have a floppy disk reader, which I haven't plugged into a computer in forever.
Neat.
Well, that's why I'm so stubborn about the Windows 11, and I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole until I knew more information. I have a HP, what have I got, 15-inch something laptop. And
Oh, my
the reason
condolences.
I got it is because it's still got a CD drive in it.
Perfect. And
And I,
yeah,
I refuse to give it up because I use it. I have a lot of different things that
Me too.
I have to look at that are on CDs for, you know, just studying and information. And I'm just not gonna go down without a fight. When you were talking about the old TVs, I have an old TV, it's whatever, tabletop or whatever the heck you call it, and it's got a VHS drive.
Perfect.
And it still works.
And you
I
can always
refuse
buy a
to give it
VCR too, but yeah.
Well, I have a VCR CD
There you go.
player.
Yeah.
And I mean, my husband's tried to get rid of all this stuff over the years. My turntable, all my vinyl, he tried to get me to get rid of that years ago, and I was like, no way, over my dead body. When I'm dead, you can take care of it.
And vinyl's coming back
And that's what
now.
I said to him. I
Yeah.
said, you see?
Yeah.
So I guess being a stubborn New Englander pays off, because I didn't buy into the Windows 11 thing, and I have yet to see anything that convinced me to do it.
And luckily, Microsoft got so impatient with it and overstepped their bounds, so to speak. They got so impatient with it that they're turning a lot of people off. So it's a beautiful thing. And people are starting to discover Mint. I'm part of a club online where we talk about Mint, and a lot of people are saying, hey, I'm a new guy here. I'm sick of Windows 11. I'm terrified by it. I'm a techie. I can't figure it out. It's so chaotic. It violates all my ownership, et cetera, et cetera. There's no benefit at all. But they're trying to get everyone into a rental scheme. And how do you do that? By making people think they need to discard their old stuff.
Yeah.
What about images, picture formats? I have like all these underwater photos
Neat.
from decades ago, and some of them I cannot access anymore. The computer cannot read them.
That's probably, as long as they're physically intact, it depends. Maybe the file is corrupt on your hard drive, or maybe the computer just can't figure out how to open them anymore, so it's two different possibilities. It depends. If they're like .raw, maybe, then,
They're not.
okay, what, do you know what the extension is? Like
I think
EXIF?
I think all of them, I turn them back to JPEG when I save them.
So, and it could be, can your computer read any JPEGs or just those?
Just those. There's,
It could be anything.
yeah.
And hopefully you have multiple copies of it or duplicate drives, because it could be that it's just corrupt. If you do have a hard drive that's physically corrupt and you try it in another computer or give it to it, whatever, and it still doesn't work, then try the Clone Store in Pennsylvania. He's been doing it since '83. He met Jobs and Wozniak, like he knows what he's doing.
Okay.
So it depends. It could just be that your computer, it's called an association issue, where your computer can't figure out how to open that.
Because I think I have the hard drive saved from an old computer.
Good.
Where I had copied them from.
Good, so you have two places. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here,
So,
really.
2